Hey, good morning, everyone. This is Tony Holowitz, and I want to talk to you about some of the steps I go through when I'm helping my clients set up what is called a remote database. So I'm a partner with a company called Keystroke, and we offer remote database synchronization. So what does that mean? Well, one of the dilemmas you face as an Act software user is if you have multiple users in an office, the potential exists that you have to put a server in your office so that all your Act data can reside on that server. So it's a spot or place where the Act users in your office can log in to see the data. So when they open up Act, it's actually seeing the data as it resides on the server. Now, servers can be very expensive. So because of that, we offer a synchronization service that's incredibly affordable. It's $120 a year per user. And I have a client right now with 3 users, and they have to purchase it for all 3 users. So if you had 10 users, it'd be $120 times 10, $320 times 3. Having stated that, what happens is we take your Act data, we get it up in the cloud. Once it's in the cloud in our servers, we turn around and send each user what is called a remote database. So there's some initial setup that has to be done. And once that setup is done, and we turn around and have those remote databases sent to you, what I do for my clients is I'll go in and help them get it set up. And I'll go find that remote database, I'll open it up, I'll bring it into Act, and once it's open and it's right in front of you, now there are some things you need to know about. So first of all, what we're looking at right now is a remote database. It's my remote database. And if you look up in the top left-hand corner, the remote database can have sort of a weird name. The name is irrelevant. It doesn't really matter, but I would suggest you make note of it. Maybe take a screenshot or take a photo with your smartphone. Just make a record or know that that's the name of your database. The next thing I do is I will go in, and I might not always do it in this order, but I will add a Synchronize Now button. So let me explain how this can work and how I generally set it up. When we use our server to host your Act database, all the data resides on the server. So your Act database can talk to the server. So let's say you come in and you start using Act during the day and say, hey, you know what? I want to get all my changes up to Act's server, which in this case is our server. You can come up and click on this Synchronize Now button, which I have placed on your toolbar. So you can do that to push or to synchronize manually. But typically what I do is behind the scenes, I will come in and I'll click on Tools. I'll go down to something called the Act Scheduler, and I'm going to click on this. And when I click on this, you might see nothing quite happens. But if it doesn't happen, there's a good chance it's been set up already. I'm going to go down to the bottom right, and you'll see this little icon called Act Scheduler is running. And I'm going to double click on this to open it up. So you'll see this little task has been created to synchronize your Act data. I'm going to double click on it to go inside it. I'm going to log through some of these steps just so you can see what it looks like. So in this case, instead of having to do it manually, I have scheduled synchronization to run automatically behind the scenes on an hourly basis at the top of the hour. So every hour this data will synchronize. Now, let's say I make a change and you have 3 users. If I make a change right now at the top of the hour, that data will go up to the cloud. If your colleagues in the office synchronize, what will happen is they're reaching out to the cloud and bringing down new changes. Any changes they made will go up to the cloud and come down to me. Now sometimes it can be just timing makes it so that a change you made might happen the following hour. So just be aware of that. If at some point, let's say it's at the bottom of the hour and you don't want to wait to the top of the hour, that's why you click on the Synchronize Now button. So this is typically what I'll set up when I go in to work on the synchronization. So if you want to confirm it's been done, you can do that here. I'm going to click cancel because I've already set this up and exit to get out of here. Okay, so again, this is how you push it. Now the other things I do is typically I'll come into Tools, I'll go down to Preferences, and there's certain preferences I will go through. One, I click on Startup, and I make sure by clicking on the Startup database that the proper database is running. I always want it to be this database, especially if previously you were using an older database or a different database. I don't want you to get into that one by accident. And there's some other ways we can sort of set up red flags so you know if by accident you've got it in there. So by default, I typically go in and make sure the proper database always starts up when you start up Act. The reason for that is there is an option here called Last Open, which is sort of the standard. So if you went into an old database and tomorrow you came in and opened Act by clicking on the Act icon, it would open the old database, and there's a chance you could be working in the wrong database, especially if it's a close copy of what you're working in today. So just something to be aware of. At this point, I'm going to click Cancel. I will also maybe do some other minor changes, but I also will go in and make sure that Outlook is set up to work with Act through some of the preferences here. So for the most part, I go in and I do some settings so when you get in to use Act, you can work with it, and I'm not going to make these changes because I've already made them. You can work with it seamlessly and not have to worry about some of the things that you need to confront as an everyday Act user. I've looked ahead, taken care of some of those things, and tried to set this up so it works for you properly. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Tony Holowitz. Thank you very much for being here. As always, if you have questions, don't hesitate to reach out to me. Thank you.